Before I say anything else, I want you to hear me with your spirit, not just your ears. There comes a time in your life when noise don't fix it, when clapping back, lashing out, and proving yourself only drains you more. Some of you are tired of trying to keep up, tired of trying to be seen, tired of trying to convince people who were never meant to believe in you. But let me tell you something. You don't have to chase what God already has your name on. You don't have to scream for attention. When you're anointed, you attract. Oh, I feel this thing already. Because when you finally decide to focus on yourself, to heal quietly, to grow privately, and to walk by faith, not by sight, then everything that's meant for you will start making its way to you. So I came to tell somebody today, this next season of your life will not be loud. It won't be about proving. It'll be about positioning. You're not late. You're not forgotten. You're not overlooked. You're just being refined in silence. And when the time is right, oh my God, God's going to do it so naturally, it'll look effortless. So sit tight, stay tuned, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through how to stop striving and start aligning. I can talk to you today. You see, family, one of the most dangerous things we do to ourselves is we confuse visibility with value. We think if people can't see us, if they don't applaud us, if they're not talking about us, then maybe we're not doing enough. But I came to tell you today, some of the most powerful work God will ever do in your life will happen in silence. You've been planted, not buried, there for the spotlight. Because if your roots aren't deep, your fruit won't last. Let me say it like this. Elevation without preparation is dangerous. And some of you are asking God to take you higher, but you haven't let him take you deeper. You want the stage, but you won't stay in the soil. You want to be seen, but you won't let yourself be shaped. But in this season, God is calling you back to the dirt, to the place where it's just you and him. No titles, no filters, no distractions. Just you, the broken parts of you, and the hand of a loving God molding you in silence. You don't need applause right now. You need alignment. You don't need recognition. You need revelation. You don't need a following. You need to be filled. And hear me when I say this. When the roots are strong, the fruit will come naturally. You won't have to force it. You won't have to fake it. You won't have to fight to stay relevant. You'll be so rooted in who you are in him that everything he has for you will flow through you. People will say, where did they come from? But they won't know you were growing in the dark. You were praying when nobody was clapping. You were healing while you kept working. You were focusing on yourself in silence while the world scrolled by. And when the time is right, you'll blossom. Not to show off, but to show God, to show his power, his faithfulness, his glory, working through your obedience. So don't despise the quiet seasons. That's not where you're dying. That's where you're being developed. Stay in the soil. Let me tell you something. What you focus on is what you feed. And some of you all have been a difference. When something is buried, it's dead. When something is planted, it's destined to grow. And I know it feels dark right now. I know it feels like no one sees the progress you're making. But just because it's not on social media, just because it's not loud, doesn't mean it's not real. God does his best work in the soil, in the unseen places. A seed doesn't need an audience to become a tree. It doesn't need approval to grow roots, and neither do you. See, the problem is we want the fruit without the fight. We want the platform without the process. We want the glory without going through the grinding. But you can't skip the season of silence and expect to be strong when the storm comes. I'm talking to somebody right now who's been wondering why it feels so quiet, why your phone's not ringing, why the doors haven't been opened, why the opportunity you've been praying for hasn't come yet. But what if God isn't punishing you? What if he's protecting you? What if this silence is the sacred space where he's strengthening your roots? Because before God puts you in front of people, he will first put you in front of yourself to deal with your fears, to heal what they never saw, to prepare you for the weight of the blessing you're about to carry. You think you're waiting on it, but it's really waiting on you to be ready. It's easy to perform for the world. It's easy to be loud and impressive, but it takes courage to be still and disciplined. It takes maturity to grow in private, to read the word when no one's watching, to cry out to God when nobody knows you're battling depression, to get your character in alignment before you ever ask. Frustration, feeding fear, feeding insecurity, because your focus has been in the wrong direction. You're focused on who didn't call you back, who didn't support you, who walked away, what didn't work, and who seems to be doing better than you. But the truth is, you're too powerful to keep giving your attention to things that drain your spirit. There's a reason the enemy keeps throwing distractions at you, because focus is spiritual. Focus is not just mental, it's faith in action. When you focus on what God gave you, not what he gave them, that's a declaration of trust. When you stop scrolling, stop comparing, and start building what God put in your hands, that's called faith. Because faith doesn't always shout. Sometimes faith just quietly says, I'm staying here until it grows. Sometimes faith says, stop trying to impress and start trying to obey. You stop chasing success and start seeking significance. You stop asking for attention and start asking for anointing. You were never created to chase clout. You were created to chase purpose. And purpose can't be microwaved. It takes time. It takes pruning. It takes patience. That's why the enemy keeps trying to distract you. That's why everything seems louder when you're trying to grow, because he knows if you ever get focused, if you ever stop looking side to side and start looking up, if you ever put all your energy into what God told you to do, then nothing and no one will be able to stop you. And I need to tell somebody, the delay in your life, it's not because you're not good enough. It's not because you're not talented. It's because your focus has been scattered. Going to work this field until the harvest comes. Faith is saying, even if I don't see results today, I'm still going to show up tomorrow. But that takes focus, and the truth is you can't focus when you're addicted to noise. Some of you are losing your joy trying to keep up with people who don't even know who they are. You're exhausted trying to match someone else's timeline, someone else's pace, someone else's image. But when you understand that God's calling on your life is custom-made, you stop trying to copy people who weren't built like you. You have to learn how to focus without needing to be fueled by outside validation. You've got to be able to say, I don't need likes to stay locked in. I don't need praise to stay on purpose. I don't need a crowd to be committed, because when you're truly focused, your view, some of the clarity you've been asking for, it's just missing. It's just hidden behind distraction. And the peace you've been craving, that stillness that your soul's been aching for, that's not going to come from people clapping. That's going to come when you quiet the world and lock eyes with God. I'm telling you, what you focus on, you become. If you focus on offense, you become bitter. If you focus on fear, you become anxious. But if you focus on purpose, on calling, on peace, on growth, you begin to step into what you were born to be. So choose today. Not next week, not when they approve, not when it's easy. Choose now to focus forward. And if you do, you won't have to force what's yours. It'll come naturally. Let me tell you something that might just set you free. You don't have to respond to every bed. You're trying to fix everybody else. You're worried about who's talking about you. You're watching their race and stumbling in yours. But in this season, God is calling you to narrow your vision. Block out the noise. Cut out the comparisons. Shut down the self-doubt and focus on your next move. Because when you start focusing on yourself, on your growth, on your healing, on your discipline, on your mindset, on your walk with God, You stop surviving and start thriving. You stop noticing what matters. You stop wasting time on conversations that don't grow you. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You begin to shift. And when you shift your focus, you shift your life. Some of the doors you've been praying for aren't locked. They're just not visible until you change. You don't have to explain yourself to everybody. You don't have to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to judge your value in the first place. Silence, my friend, is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is strength. And when you really know who you are, when you know who's backing you, when you know the oil that's on your life, you don't need to argue. You know that you don't need to clear up every misunderstanding. You can just stand still and let the Lord fight for you. See, the reason some people feel so worn out, so tired in their soul, is because you've been swinging at shadows. You've been defending your name, justifying your moves, chasing approval from people who already made up their minds about you. But I came to tell you, you don't know everybody an explanation. When God is elevating you, he doesn't always send an announcement. Sometimes he sends silence and waits to see if you trust him enough to not respond. There are some battles you win by closing your mouth. There are some victories that don't come by what you say, but by what you don't say. You ever notice that when Jesus stood before Pilate, he didn't defend himself. He had all power in his hands. He could have called down angels. He could have spoken up. He could have justified every step, but he stayed silent. Why? Because he knew his assignment was bigger than their opinions. He knew purpose didn't need permission. He knew power didn't need to shout. Sometimes when you're really walking in your calling, you've got to let your results do the talking. You've got to let your fruit speak for you. You've got to let your peace say what your words can't. I'm talking to some people today who've been feeling the pressure to defend your moves, to explain your silence, to prove your loyalty, but this is your reminder. Not every fire needs your oxygen. Some things will die off if you just stop talking to them. Some battles will resolve if you stop feeding the drama. And some people will fade away if you stop trying to prove them wrong. Let me help you understand this. Silence isn't passive. Silence is intentional. Silence is a decision to protect your peace, to preserve your energy, and to stay aligned with your purpose. Silence says, I don't need to be understood to be effective. I don't need to be seen to be successful. I don't need to be loud to be powerful. Because when you really carry something valuable, you advertise it. A diamond doesn't have to shout to be priceless. Gold doesn't scream to be respected. And a calling doesn't need a commercial. It just moves. And everything around it shifts. The enemy wants to pull you out of position by getting you to fight battles that don't matter. He wants to waste your time with arguments. He wants to wear you down with gossip. He wants to wear you down with gossip. He wants to distract you with noise, hoping you'll forget why you started. But you got to be wise enough to say, not this time. You got to know when to speak and when to stay silent, because silence isn't empty. Silence is full of power. Sometimes your greatest clap back is consistency. Sometimes your best response is growth. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is succeed quietly. Some people are waiting on your breakdown, but you're about to give them a breakthrough. Not because you proved anything, but because you held your peace. And here's the thing. When God is really moving in your life, you won't have to make noise to be noticed. Favor makes you noticeable. Grace makes you stand out. Purpose makes you stand up unforgettable. And when you walk with God, he will vindicate you in ways your words never could. So stop letting your emotions write checks your spirit can't cash. Stop letting your pride talk you out of your peace. And stop allowing every critic to pull you into their chaos. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay faithful. Let them talk. Let them question. Let them misunderstand. Because while they're watching to see what you'll say, God's preparing to show them what he'll do. There comes a moment in your life when you realize that not everybody deserves, don't sow back. And it's not that you're weak, it's that you haven't drawn the line between compassion and self-sacrifice. Let me tell you, God did not create you to be available to everybody all the time. Even Jesus withdrew. Even Jesus walked away from the crowd. Even Jesus said, my hour has not yet come. Some of you are drained because you've made yourself accessible to people who only come to take and never come to grow. They come with needs but not with vision. They come with requests but not with accountability. And if you're not careful, you will spend your entire life managing other people's chaos while your purpose sits neglected in the background. You've got to protect your space. You've got to guard your gate. Because everything that has access to you has influence over you. And not all influence is good access to you. Not because you're better than anybody, not because you think you're too good, but because you finally discovered your worth. You finally come into the understanding that your peace is too expensive to be constantly disrupted. Your energy is too sacred to be scattered. Your heart is too valuable to be handled carelessly. And when you reach that place of awareness, you stop trying to sit at every table and you start building the one God called you to prepare. See, the truth is some of us are exhausted, not because we're doing too much, but because we're giving too much of ourselves to people who don't reciprocate. You're pouring into people who only take. You're showing up for people who wouldn't show up for you. You're investing your time, your wisdom, your loyalty, your love into places that you've started focusing on yourself, growing in silence, staying aligned, watching what you feed your spirit. They don't recognize you anymore. And that's okay. You're not obligated to stay small to make them comfortable. You're not required to keep access open to people who misuse it. If they can't handle your healing, they're not assigned to your destiny. If they can't honor your boundaries, they're not ready for your presence. And if they only show up when they need something, that's not a connection, that's a transaction. You need people around you who feed you, not just need you. People who see your value when you're not producing. People who check on your soul, not just your status. People who celebrate your growth, even if it means they don't get as much of your time as they used to, because your time is, some influence distracts, some influence delays, some influence will make you second guess what God already confirmed. You can't heal in a toxic circle. You can't grow in an atmosphere that's built to keep you small. You can't step into your next while you're still dragging people who refuse to move forward. And here's the hard part. Some of the people you love the most are the ones you'll have to create the most distance from. Doesn't mean it means you're building. It doesn't mean you're shutting down. It means you're shifting priorities. It doesn't mean you're being rude. It means you're finally being responsible with your soul. Because there are people who love the version of you that was always available, always giving, always saying yes, always neglecting yourself to meet their needs. But now, rob you of preparation. You'll step out too soon, speak too fast, move ahead of God, and end up frustrated with a blessing that wasn't ready. Or worse, you weren't ready to carry it. Some things can't be rushed. You can't microwave character. You can't fast track wisdom. You can't speed through healing. There's some lessons you can only learn by waiting well. See, there's a difference between waiting and waiting well. Waiting well means you're not wasting the wait. Waiting well means you're building while you're believing. Waiting well means you're trusting even when nothing looks like it's moving. And I get it. Silence can be scary. When you've been praying and it seems like heaven's not answering. When you've been showing up but nothing's shifting. When doors don't open, when opportunities pass you by, when tell about who you give your time to, because your purpose is too important to be delayed by distractions wearing the disguise of friendship. Everybody can't go with you. Everybody won't understand you. And that's fine, because God will always assign the right people to your next chapter. So close the doors that need to be closed. Guard the space that's feeding your purpose. And stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Sometimes we get so caught up in when it's going to happen, we forget to trust that it will. We sit there trying to calculate the timeline, trying to measure the progress, asking ourselves over and over, why is it taking so long? But I need you to hear me. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Delay is not denial. And if you're not careful, you'll let impatience bury you. Sacred. Your space is sacred. Your mind is sacred. And when you start protecting those things, you'll notice the weight begin to lift. You'll stop feeling guilty for saying no. You'll stop apologizing for prioritizing your peace. You'll stop shrinking just to keep the peace with people who are disturbed by your light. Listen to me. In this next season, God is not just blessing you with more. He's teaching you to manage what you already have. And part of that management is knowing who gets to be close. Knowing who gets your energy. Knowing who gets a seat at your table. Because if you don't decide that, life will decide for you. And you'll end up surrounded by voices that talk loud but add no value. This is the season to be intentional. Intentional about your relationships. Intentional about your conversations. You come out stronger, wiser, deeper, and more disciplined. And that's the kind of vessel God can trust. Not the one who just wants to be seen, but the one who's been sifted. The one who's been through fire and didn't fold. The one who didn't give up in the waiting season. See, some people want the platform without the pressure. They want the visibility without the discipline. But the truth is, God often hides greatness until it's strong enough to be revealed. He'll hold you back on purpose, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. He's not punishing you. He's protecting you. Because what's coming to you is bigger than you think. And if you're going to carry it, you've got to be rooted deep. I know you've been faithful. I know you've been quiet. I know you've been grinding in the shadows. And I came to tell you, it feels like everyone else is moving and you're stuck in place. It's easy to start thinking, maybe God forgot you. Maybe you missed your window. Maybe you're behind. But let me speak directly to that lie. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in process. And the process is what prepares you for the promise. God is not just trying to give you something. He's trying to make you into someone who can carry it. Because if you get it before you're ready, the weight of the blessing will crush you. You'll mishandle what you are called to manage. You'll waste what you were born to build. But when you've been developed in the dark, when you've cried and still showed up, when you've worked and seen no reward, when you've loved and not been loved back, when you've obeyed without understanding, you're not being overlooked. You're being observed. Heaven sees you. God sees you. And he's not just watching your work, he's watching your heart. Are you still humble when no one claps? Are you still obedient when no one sees? Are you still grateful when nothing changed? Because when God sees you're faithful in silence, he'll bless you in public. You don't have to chase opportunity. You don't have to beg for room. You don't have to force your way into what's already yours. What's meant for you will not miss you. But you've got to be patient enough to let it unfold. You've got to be disciplined enough to keep working in the silence. You've got to be mature enough to realize that growth takes time. So keep praying when nothing changes. Keep building when no one's watching. Keep loving even if you're still healing. Keep preparing even if the door hasn't opened yet. Because when the moment comes, and it will come, it's going to happen suddenly, all at once. What took years in private will burst forth in public, and people will ask, where did they come from? They won't know about the tears, the loneliness, the nights you question if it was even worth it. But you'll know that while they were watching everything else, you were getting ready. So wait well. Stay planted, stay steady, and trust that everything that's yours is already on the way. One of the most powerful revelations you can ever come into is this. You don't have to force what's already yours. When your spirit is aligned, when your heart is pure, when your intentions are rooted in truth, and your steps are ordered, things will start coming within. When you stop comparing and start cultivating, when you stop rushing and start trusting, life begins to unfold in a way that feels natural, not forced. And that's when you know you're in your flow. You're not forcing connections anymore. You're not begging for rooms anymore. You're not anxious about outcomes anymore. You've found your rhythm. You've found your lane. And now the world has to adjust to the peace you've chosen. It's a powerful place to be when you stop striving and start surrendering. When you stop being so available to everything and start being intentional about where your energy goes. When you stop trying to chase the life you want and start becoming the person who attracts that life. You don't have to fight for what's meant for you. You don't have to beg for what's already aligned with your dad. What if I told you that when you stay in position, what you need will meet you in the right place, at the right time, in the right season? God doesn't bless desperation. He blesses alignment. And when your spirit is aligned, you don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to prove to be seen. You don't have to fight for what's already yours. Grace flows where there's order to yours. Grace flows where there's order. Favor finds those who are, and peace surrounds those who are planted. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about being lazy. I'm not talking about sitting back and doing nothing. I'm talking about the kind of stillness that comes from inner assurance. The kind of quiet focus that says, I don't have to impress anybody. I just have to stay in my lane and do what I was created to do. When you stop looking around and start looking what God called you to do, when your values match your vision and your habits support your healing, you stop chasing and you start attracting. Because the right things are magnetized to the right mindset. When your spirit is whole and your energy is guarded, you'll find that the relationships you need, the resources you've prayed for, the clarity you've cried for, they start showing up, not because you manipulated the moment, but because you were ready. So many people are walking around anxious because they're trying to force things that don't fit. You're trying to hold on to what God is trying to remove. You're trying to walk through doors that aren't assigned to your name. You're trying to make people love you, value you, understand you, and it's exhausting. But what if I told you that you don't have to do all destiny? When the soil is right, the seed grows. When the heart is right, the blessing flows. When the mind is clear, the path becomes visible. So here's what I'm challenging you to do. Stop trying to control everything. Let go of the timelines you placed on yourself. Release the need to always know what's next. Let go of who left, who didn't understand, who didn't support. Stop replaying the pain and start rebuilding the peace, because what's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to get it. What's meant for you will come with confirmation, not confusion. What's meant for you will feel like peace, not pressure. Keep your spirit clean. Keep your motives pure. Keep your focus clear, and watch what happens when you stop striving and start trusting. Everything that's been searching for you will finally marry together in ways you couldn't orchestrate if you tried. You don't have to chase, you don't have to beg, you don't have to manipulate, you don't have to constantly look over your shoulder wondering if you're missing something. When you're truly focused on your growth, centered in your purpose, and committed to walking in obedience, everything connected to your assignment will find its way to you. But that kind of ease doesn't come from striving. It comes from surrender. You've got to stop thinking you have to do everything in your own strength. You've got to stop believing that if you just push a little harder, strive a little more, stress a little longer, it'll all click. No, sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to release the pressure, fix your focus, and trust the flow. When you align your life with know where to find you,